Chess YouTube, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to squeeze black using the Catalan opening as white. Now, first of all, what the heck is the Catalan? It is this opening right here. White plays the move g3, intending to fianchetto his light-squared bishop. This is the starting point of the Catalan. Now, in the game, I opened 1d4, black went d5. There are many different move orders to reach the Catalan, but in this game, I went c4, we have e6, then knight f3, knight f6, and finally g3, heading for the Catalan opening. Now, white's idea, it's very simple. You're going to go bishop g2, fianchettoing the light-squared bishop, and from there, that bishop, the Catalan bishop, will have enormous pressure on this long diagonal, and that really is the essence of the Catalan opening. You're trying to leverage the power of this bishop to put enormous pressure on black's queen side. Now, black here has many different ways to respond. The two most common ones are bishop e7 and bishop e4, but beyond that, black can also capture on c4. There are a ton of ideas here for black, but in this game, black went for the closed Catalan with the move c6. Now, this move right here is thought to be maybe a little bit inaccurate for black. Now, what is black doing? Well, he's going for the classical pawn triangle here that you see in, for example, the Caro-Kann, the Semi-Slav, and many other openings, the London system, and so on. Now, the problem with this move, c6, or the drawback of it rather, is white gets kind of an ideal setup eventually with bishop g2, castles, queen c2, knight b d2, and then he goes for the e4 break, and that is quite good for white. Now, if you want to go for this triangle setup as black, the way to do it is bishop b4 first, like this, hitting the king, and if white goes bishop d2, that is the strongest response here, then you go bishop e7, intending a later c6, and this move order, it basically gives white the move bishop d2 for free, but that is not a good thing, as now d2 is occupied by the bishop, and therefore white cannot go knight b d2, getting the ideal setup. So this may be a slightly more accurate move order for black, but anyways, back to the game. Here, black goes c6, I go bishop g2. Black technically can take on c4, but it's not that dangerous. Instead, bishop e7 is the move, and now queen c2 defends the pawn permanently. Now here, black castles. Of course, again, it could capture on c4. A sample line may be d takes, queen takes, b5, queen c2, bishop b7. It's very playable, but instead, in the game here, black did castle. So castles is the move, and I castle as well. Now here, black goes knight b d7, a solid move in the spirit, again, of the Semi-Slav opening. And now here we have knight b d2. And again, this is the real drawback of this move order by black. The knight can go to d2 right away, and from there I can go for a fast e4 break, and if you can get e4 in like this without any sacrifices or drawbacks, then you will have a very good position as white. All right, black here, queen c7 is the move, and this move right here is potentially a little bit weak, as again, it does nothing to stop the idea of e4, and I do play it in the game, e4, and already it's only move 9, and already black's under a tremendous amount of pressure. Now, what is going on? Let's say black wastes a move here. Let's say he goes, I don't know, king to h8. Well, I have a few ideas. First of all, I am sort of threatening taking on d5. The point being, this pawn here is actually pinned, as then black would lose the queen on c7. That is one of the problems of queen c7 here. But beyond that, I can also just go e5, gaining space, driving back this knight, and from there, white is going to have a pretty big attack. For example, white may go rook e1, knight to f1, h4, h5, maybe knight g5 ideas, and so on. And white's going to have sort of a King's Indian attack style attack from the King's Indian attack opening. And black would be under a lot of pressure. Now, black knows that. In the game, black did not allow the idea. Instead, d takes e4 was played, a good move. I take back with the knight, knight takes. And black here, he trades on e4, knight takes. Then we have queen takes, and knight to f6. So this is black's idea. He's trading one pair of knights, then he's going knight d7 to f6, trying to untangle his pieces. Now, black here, he's got a little bit less space. However, if he can manage to unwind here, he may have a decent game. Now, overall, the big problem with black's position, it's really twofold. First of all, he doesn't have a whole lot of space. And second of all, it's this light squared bishop. This bishop right here is not doing a whole lot. It can't really go here. It can't really go here. It can, but it's not a very active square. Meanwhile, my two bishops, I mean, this one can go to, say, f4, and these two bishops will go slicing down the board. And overall, that is the big factor here, the space advantage and the better bishops. All right. It's my turn to move. Where do I go? It turns out here queen to e2 is the right square for the queen, but instead I go back to the c2 square, also a decent move for white. Now black goes b6, and this move here already might be a little bit inaccurate as, you know, real fast. What is white trying to do here, and what is black trying to do? Well, in this sort of structure, if black can get the move c5 in under good circumstances, he will have decent chances of equalizing. However, if white can go c5 himself, clamping down on that square, for example, if we go, I don't know, king h8 and then c5, then white is going to have a permanent long-term advantage. Now, granted, you are giving that knight on f6 the square on d5 to go to, but it turns out blocking in this bishop matters even more than the weak d5 square, and white here is just much, much better. So with that in mind, black here, he has to play the move c5 right away. This would be decent for black. Now, from here, white's still a little bit better. For example, the main line goes d takes, bishop takes, then a3, threatening potentially b4, bishop b2, and so on. And white is a little bit better, but black here is still hanging on. Now, instead, in the game, black goes b6. Now, it's a logical move. Black's idea, bishop b7, potentially rook to c8, and finally c5. All very standard ideas in the queen's gambit decline for black. However, it is a little bit slow. Here, I just go bishop f4, targeting the queen on c7. A very easy move to find, but also very strong. Now black, bishop d6, trying to block the attack. Now here, the best sequence for me is just capturing on d6 and then going c5, clamping down on that light squared bishop. For example, if that pawn stays on c6, this pawn is always going to be weak, and it does lock in the bishop. So that would have been the strongest idea. Simply bishop takes, queen takes, c5, and then black here is under a lot of pressure. Now, instead, in the game, I go knight to e5, which isn't really as strong. Yes, you are targeting c6 a little bit, but overall, it wasn't really necessary. All right, black, bishop b7. And now here, again, the main feature of this position is black trying to go c5, and I'm trying to block it by going c5 myself. So with that in mind, a good move here for white is actually b4. That is the top engine move here. And the idea is, yes, you are temporarily hanging one pawn, but if black takes it, then white has the intermediate move, knight to g6, with the attack on the queen and on the knight, and you would win material. And beyond that, if black does not capture the pawn on b4, then you are threatening potentially c5 under better circumstances, as that pawn does control c5 as well. Instead, I go rook f to e1, which is an okay move. It's not that great. It doesn't really clamp down on c5, and here black can go c5 right away, trying to free up the game, but he misses this move. Instead, black goes rook a to c8, continuing his plan, but it's just one move too slow. Here, if black can go c5, he would be a-okay, but instead, I go c5 myself, and this is where things get very, very bad for black. He takes on e5. I take back with the bishop. Now black, he's got to move his queen somewhere, and in the game, black actually goes queen to e7, which is just a suicidal move. Instead, queen d7 was likely the right square. After queen e7, I just go bishop d6, and I win the rook on f8. But beyond that, even if black didn't lose the exchange right there, even if black did go queen d7, for example, here, I'm going to have a fantastic position. I can always trade on f6 if I want to. For example, bishop takes is a good move here for white. But beyond that, look at these two bishops on g2 and b7. I mean, my bishop on g2 slicing down the board, pressuring c6, whereas black's is doing absolutely nothing. So here, white is just so much better. There are so many ways to press here as white, including potentially later an alpha 0 attack with h4, h5, and so on. But anyway, Instead, we have queen to e7, bishop d6. I win the exchange. And from here, you would think I'd be able to win, no problem, easy peasy lemon squeezy, but do not underestimate my ability to lose a winning position. And this is certainly a winning game. And as we're going to see, I get into a little bit of trouble here somehow, some way. All right, let's continue. Rook a d1, a logical move, knight d5. And here I say, you know what? I'm up so much material. What if I just trade my bishop for the knight? I trade on d5. Black takes back, and then I go rook to e5. My idea, rook d to e1, potentially rook to e7, and so on. Very logical stuff, and it is a logical idea, but somehow I do manage to screw this up a little bit. So, bishop c8, rook d to e1, then queen to h3 in the spirit of the martial attack against the Roy Lopez. And my light squares here, because I don't have my light squared bishop, things are getting a little bit dicey. All right, rook e8, trying to trade off rooks. And now black, bishop g4. And look at this. Suddenly, black is threatening bishop to f3 and then queen g2, as that would be checkmate. All right, as white, I start to panic a little bit. It turns out queen d3 is good enough to defend. I'm not sure why I didn't find that in the game. Also, it turns out c takes b6 is winning for white, believe it or not. The idea being, if c takes b6 and then bishop f3, the sequence for white, you know what, good time for a puzzle. Pause the video right now and try to find the checkmate in 2, 3, 4 moves here for white. It's a really cool idea. The move is rook takes, then king takes, then queen to c5, hits the king. Black has to move the king, and then you go rook to e8. So that was one idea. Now, instead, my idea in the game was f4. The point being, the queen now controls g2 somewhat permanently, and I'm still much better. But however, black is getting some counterplay here. All right, bishop f3. A very, cheeky idea. Queen to f2 targets the bishop. And now, bishop e4. And now look at this. Suddenly, this bishop on e4 is actually kind of a monster. Now, I have a few ideas here. One idea is simply trading on e4. For example, rook takes, d takes, rook takes, and I'm up one pawn in the endgame, but it's not that great. Instead, I trade on f8, rook takes, king takes, and then queen to f1, offering the queen trade. Now black goes queen g4, keeping the queens on the board. We have queen to f2, and then h5. Black going for it with the alpha 0 attack on the king side. Things are not looking good here. All right, rook to e3, h4, queen d2, offering the queen trade again. Queen to h3, threatening queen g2 ideas again. And now here, it turns out white has a winning move, as this move right here was completely losing, and I don't find it. The move here for white is just g4, and the queen is under attack, and the queen is actually trapped as g4 is supported by the queen on e2. So that would have been the winning idea, but again, don't underestimate my ability to throw away a completely winning game. All right, instead, g takes h4 played in the game by myself. Black takes back on h4. And then we have queen f2, offering again the trade of queens. Queen to h5, and here I make a complete blunder, and it's not super obvious at first glance why it's a blunder. I play the move rook to e2, just defending. But it turns out here, black has this simple way to kind of take over in the game. Instead of that, queen to d2 perhaps is fine, or c takes b6 is perhaps fine. But instead here, rook to e2, and black just goes queen g4. And look at this. The queen, if it goes to g3, black takes the rook. My king can't go to h1. If I go to g2, I lose the queen. Therefore, king f1 is the only move. And now black finds the counter pin, bishop to d3, regaining the piece. And I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. Queen to e3, threatening checkmate. We have bishop takes, queen takes f4. And suddenly, black here is up a pawn in the endgame. This is not good at all. I go queen f2, trying to defend against the check and the pawn on d4. Black trades here. I take back. And now, this is by all means a completely winning endgame for black. But that is not the end of this story. Things get very entertaining. Black here takes on c5. B takes c5. Honestly, that kind of helps me. B takes c5, then d takes. Now here, if I sit around and wait, black is going to march his king down the board, push these pawns, and I am as good as gone. Therefore, my only chance here is to push these pawns down the board ASAP, and that is what I do. King e7, b4, king d7, king e3, g6, a4, f6, b5, g5, king d4. Again, my only idea is pushing these pawns as fast as I can. We have g4 and then b6. All right, things are finally getting at least a little bit tricky for black. We have a takes, c takes, and here, the winning move for black is actually king d6. That move is enough to win the game. Instead, black here goes f5, and I get my chance here. If I can just find one move here, I'm actually in the game. And that move is king to e5. If I found this, I would somehow have some drawing chances here. Now, instead, in the game, I go a5, pushing my pawns like an idiot on autopilot. Now, black here does the same, f4, and here I go a6. And it turns out here, I actually have some drawing chances because black made some mistakes. We have king c8, king c5. I am going for it. And here, after king c8, it turns out I may even be winning here, believe it or not. g3, h takes, f takes, king takes c6. And here, all I have to do after g2, I have to find one move. And I'm winning here as white. But again, don't underestimate my ability to mess up a completely winning game. That's just how I roll. I show my wins and my losses on this channel right here. The winning move for white is just a7. You're threatening a8 check, which would be checkmate, and this pawn promotion does not hit the king, therefore white wins. Instead of that, I go b7, and this throws away the entire game. King b8, a7, king takes, king c7. The idea now, the pawn does promote by force. However, black also gets a queen here. We have king to a6, b8 queen, g1 queen. Now, black here has the extra pawn, and I've got to find some way to survive here. Now, the best move here for white is just queen to b7, and that does draw. I go there, I win this pawn, white's fine. But again, don't underestimate my ability to throw away a completely drawn or winning game. Here, I play the move, queen to a8, and black plays the move, queen to a7. And in this position, I resign on the spot. Here's why. If I take the queen, black takes back, king d6, and then d4, and the pawn promotes. I'm outside the square of the pawn. And therefore, in this position, way back here, right here, I had to resign. But anyway, ignore the mistakes at the end here. The real lesson I'm trying to show you in this game is the Catalan. If black goes from the line with a very fast c6, this is actually music to our ears. It's very, very good for white. All you have to know is basically castle, go queen c2, knight d2, and then e4. And from there, everything is about the fight for black to go c5, and white's trying to go c5, blocking it. For example, we fast forward here to this position. I break on e4. I'm doing very, very good here. Black makes a lot of trades. We trade. Go back to c2. e2 is better. And here, everything revolves around black trying to go c5, whereas I'm also trying to go c5, blocking the advance from black. And even if black goes c5, he's still in a little bit of pressure as this Catalan bishop is very, very strong. But if white can actually go c5 himself, as I did in the game, fast forward a little bit here to right here, once you go c5 as white, things get so hard for black. They're really, really difficult here. So anyways, cool lesson in the Catalan. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and show me some love. Smash that YouTube like button and comment down below what you thought of this game. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.